We are so excited to welcome in Riley Leonard to the show, former Notre Dame quarterback, also current NFL draft hopeful. It's crazy, Riley, how quick you have to flip that switch. But along those lines, you are fresh off the Senior Bowl. You're still in Mobile, Alabama. That's just how fresh it is. So I'm curious from your perspective, though, it's a whirlwind of a week between meetings and practices and games and everything you got going on. But what was the most valuable part of that experience for you?
Yeah, a lot of people want to talk about the loaded schedule that we had, and yeah, it was pretty exhausting, but it was like the best week, one of the best weeks of my football career. Like I absolutely loved the Senior Bowl process. I think one of the most unexpected things is just being around the best of the best players in the country and seeing how humble and how good of a person everybody was probably the biggest takeaway that I had. I mean, I built relationships just in a couple of days that are going to last me a very long time. So seeing those guys and the way that they handle themselves, the way that they treat each other, and putting a team together in just a couple of days of practice was really fun.
Riley, Emily mentioned the quick transition from the national championship to the Senior Bowl there in Mobile. I'm interested, like in your mind, you go from that game to one of the biggest job interviews of your entire life. What was the biggest thing that you were trying to prove last week in Mobile?
Yeah, obviously it was a quick turnaround. Going from South Bend into Alabama was kind of tricky for me because we had like 8 inches of snow. So everybody down here in Alabama had no idea what to do. I was telling them, like, did they put salt down on the roads yet? And they were like, what's salt going to do? Like, what does that mean? Like, nobody even knows, like, how to handle snow. So it was a wild process getting down here. So I had, like, 1 day to prep my footwork and things like that. So it was overall just a wild turn of events. But I try not to make anything bigger than it was. I mean, honestly, going from the national championship game, nothing can kind of intimidate you more than that. So anything else is just kind of a walk in the park after playing in a game like that.
I like how now that you identify as a northerner from your 1 year in South Bend, you can help out all the southerners with the snow, because I'm sure that was a very new process for them. So although I'm sure you're ready to flip the script and flip the page, as we like to say, and get ready for the NFL, we're still talking about what happened in college with you, because obviously a spectacular season ends with a national championship game appearance. I'm more curious from the standpoint of, we've been talking a lot about your head coach over the last few weeks and everything that he was able to do in the postseason. So as a player, I mean, what is it like playing for a guy like Marcus Freeman?
Yeah, it's a great question. I'll give you a couple examples of kind of the guy he is. When I was in the recruiting process, before I even committed to Notre Dame, I watched like this 2.5 hour podcast on Tom Brady, and I sent it to him. And 3 hours later, he told me he watched the whole thing and wanted to talk about it. That's just kind of the guy he is. Another thing he likes to do is bring up all the custodians and introduce them in front of the team because he really doesn't treat anybody differently from another. So his mother, I think, was a custodian, so he kind of has that perspective. And, yeah, he's just a great man, somebody I look up to. And he's also just an extension of the team. I feel like, running out there on game day, although he doesn't have pads on, it feels like he's just like an upperclassman teammate that just hypes you up and you're ready to go. So he has our respect as a person, and then can get us going before games as well.
Riley, I want to talk about that opening drive in the national championship. Maybe one of the gutsiest that I've ever seen. You ran the ball 9 times. I looked at you at the bench on the bench, and I was concerned that you might not enter that game in the national championship. I just kind of want to know personally, how much did that impact you the rest of the game? I know you're a competitor, but just give us a little inside look on what that kind of felt like the rest of the game.
Yeah. Yeah, that drive, obviously didn't feel too great on my body, but I didn't really feel it too much. I had a lot of time to recover on the sideline after that one, but I was definitely a little hurt out there. But after that first drive, I mean, I didn't really affect the way that it probably looked like I didn't run the ball as much the rest of the game, but a little bit of that was just due to the circumstances, given that we were down. By a lot going into halftime and knew we had to throw the ball in the second half to be able to come back. So we were kind of in 2-minute mode that whole second half, which obviously means we're not going to be running QB, counters and QB draws. We kind of got to get the ball spread out a little bit and rush to come back. So obviously, honestly, I felt pretty good the rest of the game. I know I took a lot of hits that first drive, but it didn't. I love that. I love taking hits. I love getting the feel for the game early. So if I couldn't have written it up any better.
Yeah, nothing new for you. You have been doing that your entire collegiate career, and I'm sure that dates back to high school. And speaking of, I can't believe we've made it this far, and I'm the first one to, I guess, wish you a happy belated Riley Leonard Day, because I hear that the mayor of the town you grew up in officially declared February 1st as a day dedicated to you. You went back to your high school. You spoke there. I mean, what was that day like for you to come back after playing in a national championship to your roots and speak to people that really got you to where you are now?
Yeah, it was a crazy day for me for obvious reasons. It was really cool to have my mom, my girlfriend, and everybody there. But I always tell people the character that you see in me is just a reflection of where I grew up and the great mentors that I had. So a lot of them were there in that gym that day. But for the mayor, Miss Sherry, to present that award to me, it was crazy because I don't feel like I'm very deserving of it. It kind of caught me off guard, but for her to honor me like that really means a lot. And, every day I just wake up thankful for the situation that I'm in and for the community that kind of gives me a little extra motivation whenever things aren't going well.
Yeah, well, I know that they're all anxiously awaiting your next move, where you're headed in the NFL. I'm sure they're going to be buying up your jerseys soon enough. But Riley Leonard, thank you so much for joining us today. We so appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. Jesus bless.
So much fun talking to him. Check out our partners at Irish Illustrated. They'll talk a lot about Riley Leonard's draft process. They're all over it there. And then, of course, he's off to the NFL. So what's next? A quarterback for the Irish. Our friends at Irish Illustrated have you covered there.